There's a new report out from Pew Research which dives into the question of wealth inequality along racial and ethnic lines. And the numbers are striking, but also they're getting worse as time is going by. A lot of that has to do with the recession, but a lot of that also has to do with other factors as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. What we're seeing here, this is racial and ethnic wealth gaps that have grown since the Great Recession. And as you can see, it used to be the case in about 2007 that black families' net worth on average was $19,200 and white families was $192,500. So giant gap. The time when it was the smallest gap was probably around the late 90s, early 2000s. And then fast forward to today, and the gap gets worse. The white net worth is 13 times greater than that of the average black net worth. The average black net worth is $11,000. The white net worth is $141,900. So both of them have had their racial groups have had their net worth drop since the Great Recession, but whites still have $141,900 and blacks are at $11,000. There's a giant disparity there. Now, furthermore, they also show the white versus Hispanic ratio here. The white net worth is 10 times greater than that of the Hispanic family. You have $13,700 is the average Hispanic family net worth, and again, $141,900 is the average white family net worth. So let's go ahead and take a look at the next chart here, and then, of course, I'll break this down for you guys in a second. What we see here is all households in 2007, $135,700 was the net worth. In 2010, it was $82,300. In 2013, it's $81,400. So you're seeing a steady drop. The average net worth in all the U.S., a steady drop since the subprime mortgage crisis and the Great Recession. And that also proves that during the recovery, all the money's going to the rich. It's not going to the middle class. It's not going to your average American or your poor American. It's going to the rich. But then you see, again, white family breakdown. It used to be $192,500. Then it was $138,600, and then it was $141,900. And then black family, like we went over, it's $11,000. Hispanic family, $13,700. Now, here's the takeaway from this. What's stunning is that the conservative reaction to this is, we told you so. You see, blacks and Hispanics, they just don't work as hard. They don't have the same family structure, and they don't have the same cultural system set up. So therefore, it reflects itself in the amount of money that they make. See, we told you. Now, that's fucking infuriating. Because when you look at numbers like this, the conclusion is not, oh, well, obviously, white people are 13 times better than black people and 10 times better than Hispanics. No. What this shows you is, because if you draw the charts further back in the past, like if you allow the charts to go further back into the 70s and the 60s and the 50s, and you go all the way back to when blacks were freed, you'll see that the numbers have consistently been like this. So what does that tell you? It tells you there are massive systemic factors at work here, and it's been virtually impossible for black families and Hispanic families to elbow their way into mainstream society because there are things blocking them. Some things are overt ways of blocking them. Other things are more subconscious and nuanced ways of blocking black people and Hispanic people from the mainstream of society. But what's undeniable is that there is something blocking them from getting into society. To look at these numbers and your conclusion be, well, see, he told you white people were better. That's the exact opposite conclusion of what your conclusion should be. Your conclusion should be, oh, the trends have held steady from a long time ago when there was Jim Crow and there was segregation and there were open forms of discrimination. So now it may be legal on the books that, hey, you can't do segregation, you can't do this, you can't do that, but we still have a lot of communities that are essentially segregated in practice. We still have a lot of hiring practices that do leave out people who are not white. And also, by the way, when you add Asians into this equation as well, see, Bill O'Reilly likes to use that for his side and say, see, but Asians do better than white people. Well, no, because the term Asian is very broad. You need to break it down specifically. Who is Vietnamese? Who is Cambodian? Who is Japanese? Who is Chinese? Et cetera, et cetera. What you find is the people who came here that already had material well-being, people who came here that were already from the upper class in their country, whether they're doctors or lawyers or what have you. Those people usually stay in the upper echelon of society and upper income level when they're here. But if you have people come here that are poor when they come here, like Vietnamese, for example, and some other specific Asian groups, they end up staying in the lower economic tier. So what we're seeing is a situation where it's a pseudo-caste system and a pseudo-feudal system where if you're born into a certain economic area, you're not very likely to raise up from there. Now, sometimes it does happen, and of course the media loves to portray those stories as the norm and as, like, you know, the story that everybody should talk about because, hey, they overcame the odds. But that's the point, that they overcame the odds. It's not the normal. The American dream is not the norm where everybody, if they work hard, they work their way up the ladder. Sometimes you work hard and you stay in the exact same place and you fucking tread water and you don't go anywhere and you continue to make $22,000 a year and you have absolutely no net worth overall. And that's what we see when we look at this data. We see that historically, Black people and Hispanic people, they bust their ass, they work hard, they look for employment, they look to raise families, they look to do the best they can for themselves and for their loved ones, and then at the end of the day, they have nothing to show for it. And again, that's not their fault. It's the fault of systemic problems and issues that have not allowed people who aren't white to really puncture into the mainstream of society and stay there.